What if the biggest challenge that you're facing today is not that troubled team member or that toxic person in your organization that's causing chaos, or even that demanding boss that is providing you with what seems like unrealistic expectations to achieve goals and aspirations for the company, or maybe even the circumstances of the economy or the competitors that you're dealing with? What if the biggest leadership challenge that you're facing today looks you in the mirror each and every day when you get up? That is the challenge that most of us face, that we need to work on the most, is working on ourselves as leaders to become better leaders, to go from being a good leader to a great leader. Or maybe you're a new leader and aspiring just to become a good leader. Back in 1999, I took over a plant in Corinth, Mississippi, a small plant in Corinth, Mississippi. The previous 12 years, 8 years with this particular company, I had been a salesman. And I'd done a really good job. I had become salesman of the year and doubled our business during that period of time. But then what happens a lot of times is when you're successful in one thing, they promote you into another role. I was promoted to become a plant manager of this small plant in Corinth, Mississippi. The one thing that hadn't really taken place though, and I had done a little bit of work in leadership and reading about it, but I had never really been formally trained to lead an organization. So that's when I went and I picked up this book. This is the actual copy that I got back in 1999 and started reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And this was my first guidebook to learning what it meant to become a better leader. And I didn't realize it at that time, but I had a growth mindset. I was really trying to learn how to go from being a positional leader, where because I had the title of plant manager, these people would do what I would say, to becoming a person of influence, where they trusted me, where they would do things above and beyond the call of duty because of who I was as a person and because of the leader I was becoming. But I started out very green, didn't know a whole lot about it. So I had to start with a growth mindset. So that's where it all starts, picking up a good book and learning more about leadership than today. And this is a great place to start, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And what I would tell you is that you have to develop a growth mindset. You have to develop an eagerness, a curiosity. You have to be humble and realize that you don't know what you don't know in order to become a better leader. So what are some key things that we should be learning as leaders? What are some key things that we should be focused on in order to lead ourselves well? One place it starts is taking 100% responsibility for what's going on in you as a person, in your leadership, and in your organization. Owning the responsibility and the decisions, the successes and the failures. Be very quick to give the praise for the success to the team and accept the responsibility for the failures as a leader. So be very good about taking 100% responsibility. Don't become a victim. Don't become a leader who plays the blame game. Be someone who owns your decisions, owns the results that are going on in your organization, and you will get a lot more respect and trust from your team and have greater ability to lead them in the future. When I was moving from one organization to the next back in the early 2000s, I was recruited to come into an organization that was full of engineers, that had a lot of people that knew how to do things technically, but we were having trouble in that organization having good emotional intelligence, good interaction with our clients. We were doing direct maintenance equipment for our clients. In other words, we were embedded in the organization, becoming a part of the organization and taking care of all their maintenance responsibilities. There was a lot of interaction with the client on a daily basis. Some of those interactions were under a lot of pressure because a piece of equipment had went down. Our emotional intelligence and the way we were handling those situations many times wasn't good. Even though we might have got the equipment back up and running well, the way we behaved as an organization, the way we interacted with the client let a negative taste in their mouth. If you remember what Maya Angelou says, he says, people will not remember what you did or what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. That was a problem that we were having with our client, is that they did not feel positive about their interactions with us. So think about that as a leader. Do your people have positive feelings about the way that you're interacting with them? Yes, there's going to be times when you have to confront them and hold them accountable and do those kind of things. And you're not going to have warm fuzzies all the time. But overall, is your perception by your team members a positive one or a negative one because of how you interact? And that goes to your tone, the words you use. Are you a person that expresses gratitude? Do you enjoy trying to help and develop your people and invest in them? Do they have a good positive interaction, feel like you're adding value to them? One of the key aspects that John Maxwell stresses is that people can't add value to others if they don't first value people. So in other words, if you don't already like people and enjoy working with people, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful as a leader. The next thing you want to think about is, do you have a vision, a goal of where you're taking the organization? So many organizations that I've worked with in the past where we come in a consulting role, they did not have a clear vision, a clear, distinct objective of where they were wanting to go, clear KPIs, clear understanding at the front levels of the organization of what they were trying to do. You as a leader, you have to have clear objectives yourself, and then those have to go down through the organization to move the organization forward. So if you're not clear about where you're going, if you don't begin with the end in mind and paint a picture for where you want to take the organization, then you're not going to be able to be effective. One example of how this can take place is when I was running an organization where the safety record was really bad, and we had to set a clear goal that we were going to stop hurting people. We did that, and we worked hard to put a lot of systems in place and communicated over and over, did a lot of training, and over a several year period we were able to go a whole year without hurting anybody, without having any recordables, which was incredible for this particular facility. But that had to start with me. It had to be a goal for me, and it had to be something I communicated daily, multiple times in order for that to go through. So I had to be a good leader and practice that in front of people and communicate that. Next thing you want to think about is accountability. You got to hold yourself accountable. One of the things that I see a lot of leaders do that they don't do well is they overpromise to their team members and then they underdeliver. This erodes your credibility, erodes trust. And if you're a chronic person that does this on a chronic basis, you're going to destroy your trust and your ability to lead that organization effectively. I recently saw this happen in one organization where the leader was consistently promising that he was going to do things for his team members. It came up time after time after time where he didn't do what he said he was going to do. And over a period of time, they had no trust in anything that he said that he was going to do for them. Then they stopped even asking him to do stuff, started just taking care of themselves or just ignoring it altogether. Over time, people started leaving the organization and people started doing other things because they didn't trust this leader. So think about that. Are you a person of your word? If you say you're going to do something for a team member or for the organization, do you follow up on that? Do you hold yourself accountable to making sure those things are going to be done well? Another key aspect is managing your energy. And I like to use this illustration, this paradigm versus managing your time, because so many times we talk about how many minutes we're spending on something instead of realizing that as we go through the day, our energy is depleted. It's like when you start that cell phone at the beginning of the day and it has 100% charge, but it erodes over time. Think about yourself. You have a limited amount of energy and you want to put your best energy towards your most important projects. So say you've got 2 or 3 key things that you need to get done that day that are going to bring the biggest return for you as a leader and for the company or the organization that you're running. But you spend 80% of your energy on this person over here that's a toxic problem, and you spend an inordinate amount of energy on that person, and then you don't get any energy left for doing the 2 or 3 big things that you need to do that day. So think about that. What is the biggest return on investment for your energy? Where should you be spending your energy? Should you be spending your energy on your top performers, helping them multiply their effectiveness, or should you be spending your energy dealing with a problem team member and exhausting yourself on something that's going to have very little return? So think about that. How do you manage your energy? Another key challenge for a leader to manage themselves well is having good resilience, perseverance, because challenges are going to come. Most likely, you wouldn't have a position of leadership if there weren't problems to solve, because that's what leaders do. They solve problems, help people prevent problems, help people find solutions to move an organization forward. So how do you handle that when problems, upset conditions, things that aren't going well? How do you handle those? Are you a person that's level-headed, that figures out what needs to be done next to move the plan forward? Or do you get emotionally upset? Do you get frustrated and then get off your game, expend energy chasing things that don't matter, and then you don't move the ball forward? So you're going to have good perseverance, good resilience, because there's going to be failures, there's going to be setbacks. Don't sit around beating yourself up. Just like when Tom Brady was playing in the NFL, he would throw an interception. He would go over, get on the bench, look at the film, and look at what he was going to do next. He forgot that interception, took the team down, and won the game. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to forget the mistake, learn from it, and then move on. Lastly, I want to think about self-discipline. What are you doing from a self-discipline standpoint? Are you doing things the right way for the right reasons? Or do you get chasing squirrels? If you ever saw the movie Up, with the dog, every time there was a squirrel, he was ready to go chase it. Do you do that as a leader? Are you disciplined and stay in your lanes and are focused on the right things and doing them for the right reasons to get the right results? If you get distracted a lot and are moving in different directions and not moving the organization forward, that's going to carry down through your organization, and your organization is going to be undisciplined. One of the things when we were doing some consulting work back earlier in my career, that we'd go into organizations, we would find most organizations were highly reactive. In other words, they were responding to problems, their equipment being down, things not working right, and they were maybe in the 90 to 95% reactive rates. What we had to do is try to teach them how to go from being a fireman, which everybody on the team was rewarded for being a fireman, to going and being proactive, becoming Smokey the Bear. That's a transition that you have to move through with a process, methodical, change the mindset and change the culture. It comes from being disciplined. You have to do the same thing as a leader. How many of the things that you did today were reactive versus proactive? How many things were you doing to put things in place for your organization and yourself to be successful? Or were you just reacting to the moments of the day? So take a few minutes, pause in your day, and think about it. Am I a highly reactive person? If I had to put a percentage on it, am I 60% reactive and 40% proactive? What can you do to move that number from 40% reactive to 60% proactive? So think about that. Are you disciplined in doing the things that you need to do, doing the right things for the right reasons to get the right results? Do you model what you want your team to be? In other words, if you take some of these characteristics and some of these behaviors that we've talked about today, do you model those? If you were to go out and draw up an avatar of the right team member to be on your team with the right behaviors, the right cultural fit, the right ways of doing things, the right ways of communicating with your organization, the right behaviors at the right time, making good decisions, being someone that was inspiring, encouraging, that caused others to do well. If you found that person and you plugged them into their organization, would they be able to see those characteristics modeled in you? Sit down, take a few minutes, and write down an avatar of the key characteristics and behaviors that you would like to see in a leader in your organization. Then sit down and reflect. Give yourself a score. How do you score in those areas? As you go through the day-to-day, think about not just the reaction of the different things that are going on in your organization and responding to those, but think about what are you going to do proactively to become a better leader, to lead yourself well, to manage your energy, and to drive the organization forward. If this content's been helpful, make sure that you subscribe below and that you share this with a friend, a colleague, Like this on our page, that helps us get more views. If you have something that you want to share, a question you want to ask, I'll have my email in the notes below, and just reach out to me and I'll be glad to respond. As we close out today, think about this. When you look in the mirror and you think about your leadership in its current state, what are some things that you can improve over the next 2 to 3 days? Could you work on your growth mindset? Maybe you spend 15 minutes a day reading a good leadership book, listening to a good leadership podcast, working on something to drive your organization forward. Think about it. Are you clear on your goals, and are you communicating effectively the goals of the organization to your team? Think about 2 or 3 things that you want to take away and that you want to improve over the next week to 10 days to improve yourself as a leader and move from being a good leader to a great leader.